I wasn't in love with him when we got married. It was arranged, and I tried to push him away at every turn, flirting with anyone and everyone, testing limits. But the more I pushed, the more he held on to me. But by the time I started to truly fall for him, to finally picture a future with him, I was keeping a secret from him I could never confess. There's no gentler way to say it. I didn't hate him either. I just didn't feel much of anything. My parents called him a good match. My friends called him safe. And I told myself that was enough. We met 3 times before the wedding. 3 quiet, awkward dinners where I asked him questions I didn't care about and laughed at jokes I didn't find funny. He was polite. He listened. But he had this way of holding back, like he didn't want to risk saying the wrong thing, like he was more afraid of me rejecting him than he was interested in getting to know me. When he proposed, officially, with a ring in front of both families, I nodded. I said yes without really meaning it, because what was I going to say? No, I want more excitement. No, I want someone who makes my heart race, not someone who folds his napkin after every bite. I knew what people would say, that I was lucky, that some girls would kill for a man like him. Stable, respectful, well-spoken. And it's not like he was unattractive, he just wasn't anything to me. Not yet. The wedding was beautiful, painfully so, white flowers, candlelight, tears in my mother's eyes. I smiled through the photos and pretended the weight in my chest was nerves, not doubt. The first night we spent together as husband and wife, he asked if I was comfortable. I said yes, even though I wasn't. I let him kiss me, I let him touch me, and the whole time, I was somewhere else in my head, floating through the ceiling, watching this careful, considerate man try to love a stranger who had already built walls she didn't plan to take down. In the beginning, I was distant, cold, not intentionally cruel, but not kind either. He brought home flowers. I barely said thank you. He made dinner. I picked at it with a fork and said I wasn't hungry. He asked how my day was. I told him, fine, and scrolled through my phone instead of looking up. I know how that sounds. I know what you're thinking. But I didn't ask for him. And I didn't think he really wanted me either. I thought we were both just doing what was expected of us. I wasn't discreet either. At gatherings, I wore dresses that showed more skin than his mother probably approved of. I laughed too loudly with male friends. I made eye contact too long. I let old classmates hug me a little tighter than they should have. And he never said a word, not once. Not when I giggled with a guy I used to date. Not when I spent hours texting someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Not even when one of his cousins made a not-so-subtle comment about me being friendly. He just watched, smiled sometimes, looked away other times. And that silence, it made me push harder. I wanted a reaction. I wanted him to care. Because if he didn't, then I could keep pretending none of it mattered. One night, I came home late from dinner with friends and found him asleep on the couch with a book on his chest and my favorite blanket folded beside him. I stared at him for a long time. He wasn't perfect, but he was trying, and I wasn't. Still, nothing changed. I kept testing the limits, messaging an old flame here, wearing a little too much perfume there. I did so in front of him, almost teasing a reaction out of him. Nothing. He said or did nothing. It never got physical with anyone, just the attention. But the boundary was a blur, and I knew it. I told myself I wasn't doing anything wrong, that I was still figuring things out, that once the newness wore off, I'd settle into the role. I'd become a good wife, a faithful one. It was a birthday party for someone I hadn't seen in years, a college friend, the kind who still hosted chaotic rooftop get-togethers and sent invitations through group chats no one ever left. He came with me, my husband. He always did. Even when he didn't really know anyone, even when the night wasn't for him, he'd show up, hold my hand, make small talk, and stay late just because I wanted to. We got there a little after 9. He brought a bottle of wine, handed it to the host with both hands like he always did, and quietly found his spot in a corner with a soda and a paper plate. I mingled. I caught up with people I hadn't seen in years, old roommates, classmates, a few I didn't even remember until I heard their voice. And then I saw Armin. He used to live 2 floors down from me in my 3rd year. We never officially dated, but we used to talk until 2 a.m., steal each other's fries, fall asleep on the same couch after movie nights. There were kisses. Things never got serious, but the tension had always lingered in a way that didn't quite fade. And that night it came back like it never left. He walked up with that same easy grin and a half laugh like, "Jess, that really you?" I rolled my eyes, said something dumb about how he'd finally figured out how to dress himself. We talked for a while. Nothing deep, just playful, harmless chatter. Only, it didn't stay harmless. We drifted to the kitchen for another drink, then to the balcony, then back inside. At some point, I realized my husband wasn't in sight anymore. I checked my phone. He'd texted just once. "I'm on the couch by the entrance. Let me know when you're ready to head out." I didn't reply. Instead, Armin asked if I wanted to see the rooftop view. I hesitated, then nodded. I followed him up a narrow stairwell that smelled like paint and dust. At the top, the door barely opened, wedged with a brick. "Remember our hangout spot in college? This place reminds me so much of it," he said, giving the door a gentle shove. I smiled. "Didn't you try to write a song up here once?" He laughed. "I wrote 5 terrible ones. You said they sounded like bad Coldplay knockoffs." I stand by that. There was barely a view. Just dim streetlights, water tanks, and silence. But it felt detached from the world, like the kind of place where reality pauses. "I miss this," he said quietly. "You, not the rooftop. You were always the smart one, always made everything feel lighter." I looked at him, surprised. "I didn't think you remembered half the things we used to do." "I remember too much," he said, his voice dropping. "Like how you used to braid your hair when you were nervous. Or how you'd hum without noticing." My breath caught. I hadn't heard anyone say things like that in years. Then, after a pause, he asked, "So, are you seeing anyone?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. I just looked at him, not smiling, not frowning, just still. Not a word about my husband, not a mention of the man waiting downstairs, who'd kissed my forehead that same night before we left for this party. I hated myself for that silence. Hated how easy it was to pretend, just for a second, that I wasn't someone's wife, that I wasn't already loved more than I probably deserved. But I said nothing, and in that awful, shameful quiet he took a step closer. I don't remember who leaned in first. Maybe we both did. The kiss didn't last long, just a few minutes, clumsy, rushed. The kind of kiss that strips the haze from your eyes before your feet even touch the stairs again. But we didn't stop. The stairwell was narrow, barely enough space to stand, let alone breathe with what we were doing. The door above us creaked slightly, opened just enough to hear the wind outside. But the world felt far away. He looked at me like he was asking permission without saying a word. I kissed him like my life depended on it. His hands moved slowly at first, hesitant, uncertain. Then they found my waist, my hips, the hem of my dress. My back pressed against the wall, the rough concrete grounding me in something that felt nothing like real life. It was silent except for our breath, uneven and quick, like we were trying to muffle every sound and failing. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't tender. It was rushed. Desperate. The kind of moment you regret before it even ends but can't pull away from. Not because it feels good, but because it feels like escape. From expectations. From the life I had waiting for me downstairs. From the guilt I was already drowning in. When it was over, I didn't look at him. I fixed my dress with trembling hands, heart hammering in my chest. And for a second, I thought he might say something, anything. But he didn't, and neither did I. We just walked down those stairs in silence. 2 strangers again. Only now I was carrying something I could never put down. I looked at my phone. 2 missed calls. A text, "Where are you? Is everything okay?" I suddenly felt cold, like everything in me had shut off all at once. I texted him back, "Yeah, sorry, just got pulled into a long convo. Coming now." He was standing by the car when I walked out. He opened the door for me. Didn't ask where I'd been. Didn't say anything about the time. Just smiled and said, "You good?" And I nodded. The ride home was quiet. He put on music. One of my playlists. Halfway through, he asked if I wanted to stop for fries. I said no. He still picked some up anyway. I sat beside him that night on the couch while we ate. His knee brushed mine. He handed me the sauce I liked without asking. And I just stared at the TV, pretending to watch, feeling like I'd torn something only I could see. I thought I'd keep this to myself. Forever. There was no way I was letting anyone find out. But that didn't happen for long. I told my best friend Liz the next morning. I didn't plan to. It just came out. She raised an eyebrow, muttered, "Armin, seriously?" Then laughed. Said, "Well, it was bound to happen at some point. Does he know yet?" I laughed. "Are you kidding? I'd rather die than find out what I did." It felt casual. It was just a one-off thing. No harm in that. Right, and besides, I wasn't planning on seeing Armin ever again. It didn't matter, but something in me ached. Not enough to confess. Not enough to cry. Just enough to feel it. Deep down, I knew it wasn't the alcohol. It wasn't the rooftop. It wasn't some stupid mistake. It was me. It was a choice. And now it was a secret. One I'd carry quietly while he still kissed my forehead before bed. A few weeks went by. I was late, only by a few days at first. 5, maybe 6, but I noticed. I always noticed. My cycle had been clockwork since college, like muscle memory. I told myself it was stress. Work had been hectic, and I hadn't exactly been eating well. But by day 8, I stopped pretending. I counted backward in my head, retraced nights, conversations, decisions I'd shoved into corners of my mind. No, this couldn't be happening. I didn't buy a test right away. I waited 2 more days, thinking maybe if I didn't confirm it, it wouldn't be real. That maybe I'd wake up and everything would go back to normal. I even Googled, "How late is too late for a period?" Like some teenager who didn't know how this worked. But on the 10th day, I drove to a pharmacy 2 neighborhoods away. I didn't want anyone I knew seeing me. I paid in cash. Back home, I paced the apartment like I was preparing for a war. I even cleaned the bathroom before I took the test. Scrubbed the sink, wiped down the mirror. As if it mattered. As if that would change the outcome. It was positive. The second line didn't even hesitate. It showed up bold and pink, like it was proud of itself. I sat on the edge of the tub and stared at it for a long time. No crying, no panic. Just this heavy stillness pressing into my chest. I didn't know what I felt. Relief, guilt, fear, all of it, none of it. What scared me most wasn't the result. It was not knowing whose it was. But I told him. I had to. I couldn't do this on my own. Not right away. I waited 2 days. Waited until I could look him in the eye without flinching. Waited until he was laughing at something on his phone with his bare feet, propped up on the coffee table. Totally unaware that our entire life had just shifted without his knowledge. When I finally said it, softly, carefully, his face changed in an instant. First confusion, then silence, then the softest, most heart-wrenching kind of joy I had ever seen. "You're serious?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I nodded. He pulled me into his arms, tighter than he had in months. Not a single question, not one moment of doubt, just pure, unfiltered love. Like there was no way his wife could ever do something so low, so unforgivable to him. It never even existed in his world. And after that, he transformed. And I mean completely. He read every book, listened to every podcast, subscribed to weekly pregnancy updates like he was studying for a final. He started meal prepping, buying fresh fruits, checking labels for anything, not pregnancy safe. One night I came home to find him quietly building a crib in what used to be his home office. He hadn't told me, just cleared it out and started. He called my mom every few days just to check in. Bought prenatal vitamins in bulk. Rubbed my back when I couldn't sleep, even at 3 a.m. Canceled a guy's trip when I mentioned I was feeling anxious and didn't want to be alone. Told me I was beautiful when I felt like a balloon with ankles. And slowly, painfully, I started to love him. I started to see in him what the people around me saw in him. What my mom saw in him when she basically forced me to marry him. Not the polite, expected love I told myself I felt before. But something deeper. Something earned. He showed up for me in ways I didn't know how to ask for. Ways I didn't believe I deserved. I eventually went for the scan. The baby looked like him. Same nose, same chin. And I wept in the car afterward. Not because I was relieved, but because I knew. I knew he would have loved that baby no matter what, even if it hadn't looked like him. And I didn't deserve any of it. It's been a year and a half. Our daughter just started babbling. She says data every time he walks into a room, and he lights up like it's the first time. Every single time. He kisses her forehead like she's made of glass, sings to her during diaper changes, and carries her around the house narrating his day like she's his little assistant. She looks exactly like him. Same soft brown eyes, same little dimple when she grins. And somehow, despite everything, he loves me more now than he ever did. He holds my hand when we're watching TV, absent-mindedly traces circles on my palm when he thinks I'm asleep. When he's cooking, he still tastes the sauce off the spoon and offers it to me first. He kisses me when I look a mess, when my hair's unwashed, and I'm in a milk-stained shirt. He thanks me for staying home, for waking up first with the baby, for being his everything, and I love him now. Truly, not just in the way you tell yourself you should. It's not obligation or comfort or guilt. It's love. Real, consuming, terrifying love. For those of you wondering, I stopped talking to him, Armin. Deleted his number. Blocked him on everything. But we still share friends. We still show up to the same birthdays, barbecues, weddings. When I see him across a crowded room, we avoid eye contact. Like we're strangers. Like nothing ever happened. Like I didn't gamble everything for one moment of selfishness. But I'm happy. Really happy. And yet at night, when the world goes still and the house quiets, I lie awake in dread. Because I know I don't deserve this. Because every time he kisses our daughter's cheeks, a voice inside me whispers, he almost wasn't hers. Because I know, if the timing had been just a little different, if genetics had played a crueler hand, this could have all fallen apart. Sometimes I watch him sleep, his arm wrapped around me protectively, and I wonder what would he do if he found out. If he knew there was ever a doubt, would he leave? Would he take our daughter and never look back? Would he look at me the same way again? Or worse, would he never look at me at all? I'll never tell him. I can't. Because this life we have now, it's perfect. Imperfect maybe, but ours. And I won't risk it. Not now. Not after everything. So I live with it. With the guilt. The fear, the relief. The overwhelming, aching gratitude. I love him. I love them both more than I have words for. But I also know love doesn't erase the past. It only makes you hope it never comes knocking. And every night, I pray it doesn't.